Hey, what's up guys, it's Oakley and we're playing a battle with the new DLC. So this map itself is called Mouth of the Pass, and it's called so because, well, in the background here is the Mouth to Blackfire Pass. Actually, over there on the other side is the battle map for Blackfire Path, which is really cool to see them take it on this side. I do like how it opens up. Nice, varied terrain, rolling hills with a pretty awesome area here to fight over in the cover of the trees. So I'm going to be pushing up. I'm playing as the clan under the new legendary lord Warhammer, the Great Green Prophet. So he is great at magical resistance, magical attacks, and buffs for his units. And I'm going against Clan Angrund, which is Indie Pride. So on my side, we can put this on play actually. What have I done? Well, I decided that I would field a couple of these forces here. Savage Orc Big Guns, expecting my buffs to try and help these guys survive, but they're going to be taking a beating from the enemy artillery. Starting to fire at them. Backing them up though, I do have some giants starting to push up as well. So 2 giants, another one is going to be on the far left flank. He's being screened by Orc Arrow Boys and the Rusty Arrows, Night Goblin Archers, who have the ability that when they shoot, they take away armor. So they're going to be hustling on over, and they're going to try and harass Indy's Regiment of Renowned Gyrocopter here. I can't remember the name of it. Let's see. Sky Hammer. And this thing is pretty powerful. So it's going to start to unload on me, but then pulls back. So not having done too much damage in the initial assault, although it is slowly starting to chip away at my forces. That's why I brought around my hero, Warzog, here to try and buff the bonuses of my troops as they get into position. I'm going to put this on slow motion because it's getting underway pretty quick. I'm swooping around with Durkit Squigs, as we saw in that previous battle. These Squigs can be freaking hilarious. So here you see them moving forward. So that is on my left flank. The dwarfs are not very mobile. And around the right flank, I have more troops swarming around. Broken Tusks Mob. So this is just, the idea was to bring a lot of these regiments of renown just to show off the cool unit models we have at our disposal. I also brought a Orc Boar Chariot. And then in the center I have even more forces, lots of Savage Orcs in the core, some Orc Boys on the flank, another Orc Boy with the Ragnarok Queen. This one, as we've seen previously, does have the ability to spawn little spiderlings, which is awesome. And in the back I have Arrow Boys covering more Orc Big Guns, 2 Black Orc units, and then in the back I have 2 more Big Guns. And then this is going to be the cream of the crop, the Killers here, Crimson Killers. Now these were kind of hyped up previously. Their stats looked incredible. They're supposed to have dual great weapons with area of effect attack, although Indie Pride did do some testing with myself before the battle, and they kind of come out 50-50 with regular Black Orcs, sometimes losing to them despite costing a fair amount more, so they're not necessarily worth it. On the other side is going to be Indie Pride's force. I'm going to land a charge on his right flank, but let's take a look. In the front, Miners, a rank of Iron Breakers, some elites in there, Rangers, Dwarf Warriors. These are the guys with the flaming axes behind them, and then artillery upon artillery, Slayers guarding the flanks, and more Rangers and Quarrelers in the back. So he's got a lot of guys, especially the Iron Drakes. This is pretty scary, but we'll see what happens when I try and bear down on him. So he's getting a lot of fire off of my guys. What I'm going to decide to do is charge forward with Wazog and try and rally my men. I'm going to cast a spell here. Ooh, just stomp down right on this big mass of units, disrupting the front lines completely, knocking them over, and just as they get up, I'm going to have my Savage Orcs come in and start to break upon them. Having the same thing happen here with my Giant as well. Although he's going to take the brunt of a lot of focus fire from the Iron Drakes and the Quarrelers all in the background. I cast another explosion spell just to keep those guys amuck, but the concentrated fire of these Iron Drakes is going to be pretty brutal to my guy. But his goal is mostly to just keep the enemy at bay. Meanwhile, the front ranks are going to also charge forward, all up through the front rank. You can see axes being thrown, my Savage Orcs charging through. I do have a lot of buffs on them going at the time being to try and keep their health stats up. And now you can see them charging in at the enemy, doing fairly well, having gotten through the main bruising stage of the explosions. And so now I think we're going to see how well we can sustain. Fist of Gork plus 36 melee defense plus 22 weapon damage. So doing fairly well, but just the delaying tactics of what he's doing. My guy's being caught up against these miners is not going to do well for me. I'm starting to break on those flanks, but I'm pushing heavily on the left and right. Durkit Squigs here land a pretty brutal strike through the back. So I'm hitting Indie Pride on all sides. On this side as well, I'm moving around with my Spider. And I also have Indy's Lord here, the Rune Lord, actually casting a lot of buffs on his forces. So he's going to try and keep them in position while I roll up with more troops. And he's been able to beat back my first forces with the Skyhammer here, dropping tons of huge hits on my guys. Savage Orcs obviously don't have much armor, and so that is doing punishing amounts of damage. Here come my heavier troops, Big Guns and Crimson Killers, but still they're taking a lot of damage. I am swarming around this side, and I did a little bit of a juke with my Spider. So have we seen previously, this guy is really strong. Indie Pride is going to try and redeploy some of his elite units to come after me. And what I'm going to do is take a look at the ground. I'm going to cast the Spiderling ability here. These guys are going to pop up, and they're essentially going to bog down those elite forces. Meanwhile, my Spider is going to get away, and then I get to sandwich his forces as more Orc boys come in. So a pretty nice ability, allow you to extract your forces. And then I'm going to come in for a hammer and anvil on the rear of these troops, bust them in the back, and then get Black Orcs to chomp through these front ranks. Don't know how they're going to survive. It's going to be pretty brutal. Although the rear lines with Rangers are seemingly holding strong. Taking out his artillery with some of my own guys, and then take a look at this chariot force here. Always a fun unit to use when the enemy is kind of broken up like this, and they are going to say, I don't care what you've got, and they're just going to plow through everything. So the complete surround is doing well. I'm going to go back and hit the center. Wazag comes in with this like pins and needles attack as well. Try and beat these forces back. But unfortunately, the whole timing of this did result in my Savage Orcs collapsing before I could land the strikes on the flank. So Indy is kind of somewhat holding, although most of his guys are starting to collapse up through the center, and I have more guys pulled up on the flank. My other giant is here in the clear, doing pretty well. Squig's still alive, but the main problem here is these Iron Drakes. So what I'm trying to do is target it with the Rusty Arrows. Like I said, these guys have the upside of being able to provide armor debuffs against the enemy. So that's exactly what I'm trying to do to this whole cluster of forces. Just ping them and cause them to lose some of their defense. And yeah, this is all his skirmishers left. And now I'm going to pull through with the chariot still running rampant. Spider in the distance too. God, I love these new units. They're so freaking cool. And just tying these forces down is going to do a lot to relieve my own troops. But inevitably, as I do start to get surrounded in my chariot here, I'm not microing it as much to pull it through. I'm still trying to, but now it does finally rout after getting a fair amount of kills. It did give me time to start to surround these Norglings, doing fairly well. On this flank here, I'm continuing to break the enemy, although my Tusk Mob is there now starting to rout, and especially my Spider Queen is starting to go down against these Dwarf Warriors and Hammerers. Some abilities being cast against me. Master of Rune and Wrath. The Rune Lord in the mix here is being kind of crucial to holding Indy's center line. My Black Orc's trying to do away with him, but this Rune Lord is extremely strong. And in the distance, you can see the Gyrocopter is still alive. Some Slayers still in the mix, so they're rallying around their princes and their lords at this point. Black Orc's still doing well, but this main blob here that I was not able to crack can now start frying away my units, otherwise caught in combat. Ooh, and in the distance you did see my giant finally go down as well to the concentrated fire of this battery, and my god, are these guys putting on the hurt. Another blast here, some of it being caught on the giant's body, but most of it, oh no, actually he did end up catching a fair amount, but a lot of it actually did, maybe, I don't know, a third of it broke through and did manage to shatter my forces. More strikes coming in, so now my main force is crumbling all through. I am having a bit of a rally over in that position. And the Black Orcs now here rallying, as well as having Wozog here, Arcane Power, and other abilities that I'm popping to try and rally my elite units here. Vista Gork having been popped for melee defense, melee attack, and melee damage. This is going to allow me to chew through the remaining guys. So this is where it really comes down to it. Elite forces against elite forces. Although with the Rune Lord in their mix, these forces, especially the elite guys, the Warriors of Dragonfire Pass and the Dragonback Slayers, yes, they're low in number, but they're going to be able to crush my guys. Crimson Killers are going to try and hold out somewhat, but they are half, it's half Warpaint and half blood on them, and they're actually going to shatter in the face of that. Squig's still alive, and we know how those guys can turn the tide of battle, so I'm trying to use them for their armor piercing to just bowl over a couple units, and it seems like it's going to work pretty well. These Nordlings are starting to drop, and the Sky Hammer, having expended all of its bombs, is now caught in the melee. It's trying to disengage. Ooh, and now actually a lot of the fire coming again from the distance in the forest back there, where his Quarrelers are still all alive. That's a real problem for me. It does end up, I believe, shattering my forces. Yep. Although more of my guys' Savage Orc Biggins are coming back from the fight, it is this central blob that has been causing me, I believe, the most amount of trouble with the supporting fire, helping to break some of my units, my giants, my big guys. Really big problem. And these troops here still somehow alive. I'm going to continue to fire at them with the Rusty Arrows. And yeah, I can take out some of their armor, but these guys are heavily armored. Not even sure if it's possible to ding these guys with the arrows I'm firing at them. And they're going to hustle on over almost point blank to me and now try and fire straight up my ass. We'll see how that goes. That's pretty awesome. Trying to save the Dragonfire Pass Warriors. And we'll see if that ends up working. They are still holding strong with 35 men, and boom, finally they do shatter my guys. Wozog here is trying to get the final vengeance against them. Oh my god, just punts a guy off in the distance, and I'm going to circle back and finally be able to, I believe, shatter this exhausted unit. It's taken me forever to deal with these guys, and I don't care what it takes. I'm going to destroy these guys in a fit of vengeance. Oh, a decapitation there, and he's like, well, this is easy. But now what I'm going to have to do is charge away from that battle because of Indy Pride supporting forces. I'm going to try and deal with these troops, trying to rally my forces, but no. Alas, the morale penalties kick in, and I am left with a devastating defeat. That was a fun battle. I think the cause of my loss was, well, twofold. One, slight mistiming in terms of my front ranks crashing on the enemy before my rear attacks could get off. I should have focused on landing rear attacks, striking at those positions, and then finally closing on the center when I had the opportunity. Instead, my guys got butchered in the front lines before they could have any support. On top of the fact that I was using Savage Orcs there, probably not the best for frontline troops. They're going to take a bruising. I was just playing it around to see if Wozog's buffs would do anything to make them more cost effective. But no, when faced with multiple ranks, with bombers and quarrelers, they died in droves. On top of that, it was cool to see the new Rune Lord unit in the mix and how he was able to hold down the center. Very, very cool stuff. Let's go ahead and end the replay, take a look at some of the final stats and tallies here. I'm guessing Indy Pride's Elite Iron Drakes are going to get most of the kills. Same with the, Warriors of Dragonfire Pass as well, 115. Longbeards, yeah, the Elite unit's doing pretty well. Dragonback Slayers seem to be doing much better than typical Slayers. Yeah, Iron Breakers as well. Man, his elite troops kicked butt. And where are his Iron Drakes at? Oh, surprisingly, only 26 kills actually. I guess most of it was causing fear and collapse amongst my men. And Indy did have a fair amount of Dwarf Warriors here. You'll note that he actually had more men than me, so I slaughtered his front ranks here. But his elite steadier troops plus the Rune Lord just did work against my guys. Plus the artillery, Grudge Thrower is always pretty solid. My own guys, some of the Savage Orcs doing well, but the other ones shattering outright. Save with these Savage Orcs here, not doing too well. Crimson Slayers, or Killers, doing pretty well. Biggins, Warriors, Archers doing fairly well actually for themselves. Chariot raking up a lot of kills. Same with this unit here. And the Spider, I think overall, had I swapped out some of these Savage Orcs for more robust armored units, I think we would have a much fairer fight, a much better fight But anyways, like I said, we're just playing around with stuff, and this was definitely fun. I do like Wozak. He has some cool abilities. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see when everyone gets their hands on these new units, what the new meta plays out to be, and I hope it does inspire more people to play with the dwarves. We haven't been seeing too much of them, but I hope these buffs do give them a bit more flexibility and power. Hope you guys enjoyed. Stay tuned for more. See you in the next one. Peace out.